Hello, hi, welcome to my channel, thanks for tuning in. Today's video is going to be very interesting because I want to discuss the main villain of P5X. I mainly want to discuss what we know about this person and what powers he has. I also want to speculate a bit about other characters who may be connected to him. But quick warning, I'm going to mention some spoilers for Persona 5 Royal in this video, so be aware. So, let's get into it. One last thing very quickly though. For some god-awful reason, the devs left the entire model for this character in the game's files, but I won't be showing or mentioning this leak for three main reasons. Number one, this character's design may not be finalized, so stuff about him may change. Number two, this model doesn't really tell us much about this character. I mean, we know what he looks like, but that's about it. Number three, it is leaked content, and I really want to avoid spoiling stuff for people, so those are my reasons for not mentioning the leak. Alright, well, let's get into it for real this time. Okay, elephant in the room, the voice actor for this villain is Takaya Kuroda. This man also voices Kazuma Kiryu, so I'm going to refer as this villain as Kiryu from now on. Well, Kiryu was officially shown off at the end of the third arc in P5X's story. Kiryu was revealed to be the man who Akashi was working for. We are also told that he is trying to ascertain the identity of the Phantom Thieves. We are shown some shots of his penthouse, so I'm going to assume that Kiryu is a man of high status. On his desk, we can see the high-tech glasses that Akashi wears, so we can assume that he's the one who gave them to Akashi, or that he is the one who is making these glasses. He also has a small picture frame on his desk, meaning that he probably has kids or someone who's important to him. Not too interesting, to be honest. Next, we are shown Kiryu's phone, which has a lot on it. We can see that he has the Metaverse Navigator. So this man has access to the metaverse, which means he's a way bigger threat than I originally thought he was. We can also see many video editing apps on his phone. This is important because he is the owner of the Magatsushin website. If you need a refresher for what Magatsushin is, it's a website where phantoms are officially certified. It's also a website where many gossip videos are shared to show potential phantoms. Phantoms are people who rob the desires of others. Every phantom is also a palace ruler, which is interesting, but I'll get to that later. And lastly, we can see that his phone wallpaper has a bunch of whales on it. This seems stupid to point out, but it will make sense in a minute, don't worry. So what are his powers? Well, right after the scene in the penthouse, we are shown a live demonstration of his powers. There's a cutscene where Akashi is walking to the police station to confess his crimes. Then it switches over to a shot in Mementos where a whale flies over and a monster known as a Shedium appears. These monsters mess with the cognition of a nearby homeless man, and they make him stab Akashi with a pair of scissors. This is the power that Kiryu has. He can summon these Shediums with his whale powers, and these Shediums make people go crazy. It honestly really reminds me of when Akechi uses Loki to make people's shadow go psychotic, leading to mental shutdowns and psychotic breakdowns. In another scene, Ruferu talks with Wonder about Shediums. Ruferu talks about how he believes that Shediums are able to stimulate and amplify people's desires, affecting their shadows and making them act irrationally. Ruferu also speculates that someone is creating and using these Shediums to abuse this power. This is exactly what Kiryu is doing. He is creating these Shediums and using their power to make other people go crazy or just do terrible things. This is also what happens during Akashi's boss fight. A huge whale suddenly jumps into the sky. Right after this, a bunch of Shedium appear and start attacking Akashi's shadow. These Shediums mess with Akashi's desire and make his shadow go psychotic, eventually leading to his shadow turning into a giant monster. And do you want to know what was happening in the real world while this happened? Akashi was also officially certified as a phantom on Magatsushin. I also want to point out how that whale looks very similar to Loki. As for how his powers actually work, I don't really know, but I really think it could be the power of a persona. Considering he has the Metaverse Navigator, he may also have a persona. I would think that his powers would work really similarly to Maruki's powers. Maruki's persona as a thought Yaldabaoth had the power to distort reality by changing people's cognition. So maybe Kiryu's persona might have the powers to summon that whale that's responsible for summoning the Shediums. But I would also think it'd be really funny if the persona was the giant whale. It would just be so silly considering the persona's size. As for Magatsushin, Kiryu usually uses it to certify people as phantoms. Official phantoms are usually people who have palaces, but I don't think that Kiryu is creating these palaces. These palaces are genuinely being created by their owners. So I think that Kiryu is certifying these people as phantoms so that they can start to steal people's desires. But why is he even doing this? There can be many reasons for this, but I mainly think that he is just making these phantoms do his bidding. I believe that Kiryu's end goal is to deprive everyone of their desires, and these phantoms are just doing it for him. He may have some huge plan, or he could just be doing it out of spite, or he could be like Shido trying to get a position of power out of it. So Kiryu has special whale powers which he can use to summon a bunch of Shedium. He uses this power on people's shadow to stimulate their desires and make them go crazy. Additionally, he uses Magatsushin's website to somewhat control the general public's opinion. Alright, now I want to talk about Kiryu's position in the storyline. We know what powers Kiryu has, but do we know how he got them? Nope, no clue. My best guess is that there's another true villain who just gave him that power, kind of like when Yaldabaoth gave Akechi the power of his personas and access to the metaverse. Kiryu really reminds me of a mix between Shido and Akechi. He reminds me of Akechi because Akechi used his supernatural powers to further his plans, and this is exactly what Kiryu is doing with his whale powers. But Kiryu reminds me of Shido because the general public is invested in Magatsushin, and they take its word as gospel. Since Kiryu is the one who runs that website, the general public is basically obsessing over what he has to say. This really reminds me of the election in Persona 5, where there were so many people blindly supporting Shido with their full trust. So I feel like when the Phantom Thieves eventually defeat and convert Kiryu, people are still going to blindly trust Magatsushin. This will eventually lead to the true villain of P5X to reveal themselves. But I want to make this clear, I believe that Kiryu is the main villain of P5X, but not the true villain of P5X. He's basically like the Shido of P5X, but not the Yaldabaoth of P5X. I say this because I'm confident that Kiryu isn't the one who is responsible for what's going on in the Velvet Room. If you don't know what's going on in the Velvet Room, then TLDR, the Velvet Room attendant Merope and Igor are very suspicious, and this is probably caused by the true villain of P5X. If you want a more in-depth explanation, make sure to check out my theory about Merope and the Velvet Room. Well, I can say with certainty that Kiryu isn't involved with the Velvet Room stuff because he doesn't know Wonder's identity. If he was responsible for the Velvet Room situation, then he would already know who Wonder is, so he never would have needed to hire Akashi to find the identity of the Phantom Thieves. Here's a fun fact, the Magatsushi name is probably a reference to the god Magatsushi no Okami in Japanese mythology. Magatsushi no Okami is known as the god of disaster. So do I think that Magatsushi no Okami is going to be the true villain of P5X? Probably not, since there seems to be a lot of Greek mythology theming in P5X, and not Japanese mythology theming. But this was just a fun fact I want to mention since it could be a reference to a supernatural creature being a part of the story. But why is Kiryu even doing this? We still don't know, to be honest. His motives could be literally anything. Maybe he wants to get into a position of power over people, maybe he wants to just be evil, maybe he really does want to deprive society of their desires. I have no clue, but we'll eventually learn this anyway, so I guess time will tell. So Kiryu is kind of like Shido and Akechi in one character. The general public takes his word as gospel like Shido, and he uses his supernatural powers to further his plans like Akechi. But he isn't the true villain of P5X, there will still be one more supernatural being who will be revealed somewhere near the end of the game. I know I've already talked a lot about Kiryu, but I really want to talk about two mysterious characters who may be related to Kiryu. The first character is Aran Hirai. Aran is a high school girl who is obsessed with Magatsushin and obsessed with stalking Wonder. She also probably knows that Wonder and his friends are the Phantom Thieves since she watched them upload Akashi's calling card onto Magatsushin. It was also teased that Aran has the Metaverse Navigator navigator on her phone, so she is 100% important to the story of P5X. Whenever I think of her, I always think of this one very out of place scene in the game. Basically, she receives a notification on her phone that Akashi was officially certified as a phantom. She then says something along the lines of another one certified as a phantom and then starts crying for some reason. So at least to me, it seems that she takes situations with Magatsushin very seriously. But why? I have no idea. But then a random idea came to my head and I thought, what if Aran was Kiryu's daughter and she knows about what her dad is doing? So that's why she's constantly stalking Wonder. She wants his help to stop her dad, and it will eventually lead to her getting a persona since she has the metaverse navigator. I mean, it's not a terrible guess, but there's just no evidence to support this. I mean, I could say that this could be an example of the P5X devs trying to recreate a similar situation to Haru and her dad or Akechi and Shido. No clue, but I thought it was just something interesting to think about, so that's why I decided to bring it up. The last character I want to talk about is this guy. Apparently his name is Ikenami. He only really shows up twice. He shows up once in game and he's just reading a book on the train, but he also shows up during the opening cutscene of P5X. Considering that Aran also shows up in this cutscene, who is 100% important, I'm just gonna assume that he is also gonna be important to the story. I really don't know why, but he totally gives me Akechi vibes. He looks very stern, serious, and professional to me, so I feel like he could be working for Kiryu and eventually become a spy for Kiryu. Maybe Ikenami is already a Persona user and he might pretend to join the Phantom Thieves and then just betray them or give information to Kiryu. I mean, there isn't really much we know about Ikenami, so I can't really talk too much about him, but I just want to talk about the vibes he gave off because he is 100% going to be important to P5X's story. So what's my conclusion? Well, Kiryu is the main villain of P5X and he is using his supernatural powers to further his plans. He has special whale powers that can summon Shediums. These Shediums can affect someone's shadow and make them act crazy. Additionally, he uses Magatsushin to influence the public's opinions about phantoms. He probably does this so that people will be aware of these phantoms' existence, leading to their desires being stolen by these phantoms. We really don't know the motive behind his actions, but I do believe that his end goal is to rob society of their desires. Additionally, there's going to be another true villain of P5X because Kiryu isn't the one who was responsible for the Velvet Room situation. This true villain is probably gonna be someone similar to Yaldabaoth, a supernatural being who has powers beyond humans. Well, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. This was a really fun video, but I also think it was a little weird. I mean, I don't really know if this was a theory, but I think it kind of was. No clue what this video was, but it was really fun to just yap about Kiryu and the P5X story because it just really interests me. To be honest, this topic has been on my mind for so long. So it was really fun to just finally talk about this topic because I'm just so passionate about it. I don't know what it is. I just am so interested by this. What do you think about Kiryu? You should leave a comment. He's a really interesting character, so I'd love to hear what you guys think about him and how he may affect P5X's story. Well, that's all I got for today, so thanks for watching. Bye!
Hot like a parked car.